We look around us and see division. Disagreements have turned to divide. Divide has turned to fear, and fear has turned to hate. Who shouts the loudest? And who hits the hardest? With racial tensions and political wars, people are looking for excuses to avoid rather than reasons to love. There has to be another way. There has to be a way to bridge the divide. In a world of chaos and slander, where does love fit? We propose it's the bridge over troubled water.
Good morning.
Hey, guys.
You were way quieter than I was. I didn't mean to yell at you.
Chill
I'm
out.
just excited. I'm pumped this morning.
We're together.
My name's Graham.
I'm Robbie.
And we are excited and honored to be with you this morning. So this is our third week in this.
Wait, we're at Online. We're at AJ's.
Whoa,
we're at
whoa.
Crab Island.
Forgive me.
We got to shout out all of you guys that are with us at all of our other locations.
The online location.
Yes.
Yep. We really are glad you guys are with us, and think how cool this is that we have those 4 different locations.
Yes.
And it feels like, oh man, God's using each one in a unique way. So
cool.
thanks for calling me out publicly for that. That's awesome.
That's why I'm here.
Whoa, muscles? Sorry about that. So this is our third week in our series. Can I talk about that now? Okay. In our series called Bridge Over Troubled Water. And full disclosure here, this is a series that I was excited about, and I realized it was necessary, but a little nervous about, I think.
Yeah.
Only because we thought, dude, let's get into some hot topics in society and culture today. And so that's always just kind of a little bit dicey. But we thought, if there's anywhere in the world that you should be able to talk about this stuff,
For sure.
it should be church, right? This should be kind of our safe place. And so this is our attempt to unapologetically kind of launch into these issues. And here's kind of what we've arrived at is we are never going to talk about every single circumstance because there's too many, right?
Yeah, we can't keep up.
Exactly. And if nothing happens, wait 12 hours. There'll be something new. So we can't cover every little thing. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to attack our internal motive or our mindset and try to align that the best we can with how God responds the best us humans can. That way, instead of attacking every little thing, it's like, how should we be the healthiest as we attack these different things? So one of the questions that has gone throughout the whole series is, what does love require of us? Which is a beautiful question and a great filter that we have. And it sounds way easier than it is, right?
Oh, yeah. I think it reminds me of a few weeks ago when you and Pastor Eric, during Clickbait, you guys talked about this idea of cognitive bias. And I think that is one of those things that keeps us from answering that question, what does love require of us? Or is that cognitive bias? And so
remind us what cognitive bias is.
Yeah, that's just the idea of we attribute a person's behavior to their character, right? Where something that they're doing, it's because of what's inside of them. We know their heart.
Yeah, and it's usually stuff that they screw up, right?
Absolutely. That we don't miss out on being able to label somebody based on what how they screwed up, right? But when it comes to us, when it comes to me, for example, I might I might screw up, but I have all these reasons why.
Totally.
Right? All these external, environmental factors
that
contributed.
That guy was late because he's irresponsible and he's lazy.
Completely.
If I'm late, it's because I got 3 kids and they probably set fire to something.
And I'm a pastor, so on my way here, I was late. I was helping somebody.
Yeah, I'm actually a better person because I'm late.
Wait, you're on time?
Yeah.
You're on
Who
time?
are you ignoring in your life? Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And so when we think about cognitive bias, especially right now when you talk about with the climate that we're in, you can pick any hot topic out of the air you want, but that we do that. We run into that. I know all Republicans are heartless, right? I know because that neighbor down the street, they have that.
Yep, so I got them all figured out.
We have them we know what their heart says. I see that sign, whatever sign in their yard, I know who they are. Or Democrats are corrupt, right?
Yep, every single one.
All of that. We
Yep.
know deep down inside. But obviously, because I think we've all fallen into this idea of cognitive bias, or we've all actually probably victims of it, or, perpetrators of it. But I want to invite you to the idea of, like, if we are emotionally intelligent, if we're empathetic, if we're mature people, we actually probably won't fall for that.
Dang, yeah. Even, when you're talking about that, I'm thinking for myself, when do I fall for that? And I do. Even though I'm thinking about it, I still fall for it. And when I fall for it, it's usually on social media. I see a meme or I see something that's got a trillion comments, and I find myself wanting to comment on that. And I realize the reason is because the people who create those memes or posts or whatever that get shared, even the videos, little clips of videos, they know how to find this core value that we have and really kind of tug at that, right? You felt that. And so the manipulation is that they actually use something that is good inside of us, like a value or something benevolent. And all of a sudden they take something that's good and they use it for us to hate another person. And I'm like, wait, how did I get here? This is supposed to be good.
I know.
But when I find myself honestly being the best, or what I would say is the most mature, is honestly when I'm talking face to face with somebody else. It's when, like, there's this human element between us, right? And if you're sitting here and you're sharing your story with me, or your background, typically a blog post is not my filter for that.
Yeah, it's so much easier.
Yeah, it's that human element. But we all know this, even though we forget when we want to comment, is that underneath those social media posts, and honestly at the heart of even the news outlets, there are people who profit off of hysteria, and there are people who profit off of division. And we have to remember that for emotional maturity. So we've said before that we've admitted our ignorance in areas.
Yes.
We say that ignorance is not stupidity. Ignorance is just limited exposure to something, right? Usually ignorant statements are making large generalizations with a small sample size.
Yeah.
And so we've said before that we don't fight ignorance with knowledge, primarily because it's hard to find unbiased knowledge. We fight ignorance with experience. Right? We lean in. Man, if you have a small sample size in something, if you have limited exposure to something, then you need to lean in, get to know people in that demographic that you don't know, right? Get to know people inside of that situation that you have limited exposure to. In fact, we've said it so much that your guys' challenge the first week, which I loved. What was it? I did it. Do you remember how you phrased it?
Yes, it was to reach out and have a conversation with someone you disagree with radically.
That's what it was. So I did that.
What?
Yes, I did it. I know.
Popcorn.
And the person was my cousin, whom I love.
Okay.
So this isn't like I got to call him type of thing, but we do disagree on a lot of things, and some things radically. And so I called him, and I didn't call with the intention, whatever, of debating. I didn't call to be like, let's find out who's right in this situation. I called him and I just encouraged him. And I actually, and this was powerful for me, I was like, dude, can I pray for you? And he said, yes. And I got to pray for him. And I remember saying to him, dude, this is a dark world, and you are a bright light, and I don't want your light to dim. Like, this world needs your light. And I'll say this, that when I hung up the phone, I felt so much more connected to him. Is maybe before that phone call, people would have seen just these differing ideals or opinions. But in the middle of that phone call, it's like, we are two humans. And so here's what we say, is that when we lean in, we see that what divides us diminishes, and what unites us surfaces, right? Some of those things melt away a little bit, and we actually feel this binding humanity that's there.
Yeah.
What would we say last week? That you don't need sameness to have oneness, right? I felt that.
Yeah. And you guys, with that idea of labels, right? when you consider labels, and you actually might subscribe to a certain label today where you might consider yourself a Jesus follower, or you might be at Crab Island, you just pulled up on your boat and you see this big screen like, wait, what's going on? And you don't know much about Jesus at all. And then the rest are somewhere in there.
Right.
Regardless of that label or the labels that you might identify with today, just for today, and as we continue this important conversation, we just want to clear the air and throw on the table what Jesus desired his church to be like.
Yep.
That's what we want to focus on today. We don't want to look at necessarily what your church that you grew up with, how they were running it and what was happening and what went wrong there, or even how we get it wrong sometimes.
Yeah. What is Jesus' intent?
Yes.
Yeah.
How did he, first things first, how did he want
That's
his
good.
church to be run? And so Jesus, spoiler alert, he did not want his church to be Republican or Democrat or any, whatever Kanye West is doing. He don't want his church to be like that.
By the way, if Kanye West wins the presidency, are we going to get a national anthem that is just like banging?
I don't know. I'm waiting for this album, but seriously, Jesus's church is made up of a mix of all of that, of all of us, and what makes this movement, what he came for, and what his desire was, what makes this so powerful is that, what makes this movement actually so powerful is that our, church was not primarily meant to be a political filter. We need to have that faith filter first.
Yeah.
It should come before our political filter.
Yeah, what's the first lens that we're seeing the world through?
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah,
Yes.
the first lens has to be the faith filter.
For sure.
Yeah.
And we do the world a huge disfavor when we don't subscribe to that, when we don't run church or be the church like Jesus called us to do. And just like last week, Pastor Quinn, Pastor Donnie, they told us that Jesus came to take over. He did, and we forget the part, he came to take over, what they say, but we forget the part where that love and compassion piece is there. We always forget that. I mean, when he came.
It wasn't that Jesus came over and just started busting heads. Right, swinging the sword. Actually, that's what they thought he was going to do.
Yeah.
But he took over with love and compassion.
Completely. And that is radical.
Yeah.
That is radical. That is disruptive. And that actually is what we're invited to be a part of, all of us.
Yeah, so that's what we wanted to communicate today is what a huge deal that is. What Jesus came in the voice of love and togetherness and oneness.
Yeah.
Actually, we had this phrase that we loved that we said Jesus represented culturally disruptive unity.
Yeah.
Think about that, culturally disruptive unity. The reason I think that hits me so hard right now is I thought that right now, if we heard the word unity, that would be culturally disruptive.
That actually would keep us like, wait, what?
Yeah. If you heard a news story right now that was like, hey, people are getting along, you'd be like, what? Like, that's not even possible, right?
Cult.
You wouldn't believe it. Yeah. And so that's why it's culturally disruptive. That's why it's radical. And the model that we follow for this culturally disruptive unity is Jesus. And so we want to share this short story of how Jesus embodied this unity. And it wasn't even really anything that he said. It was just something that he did that people are like, oh, man, I had no idea you meant to that degree.
Right.
So here's the story. In that day, the young Jewish boys would be studying the Bible at that time was the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, that made up the Torah. And these young Jewish boys would study that. And you try to memorize as much as you could, and can you turn like teaching metaphors from it, right? All of that. And then around like age 12, you would be tested on that, what you'd been studying up to that point. And at 12, which sounds young, but you would be decided on, if you were a stud academically, you would be chosen to follow a rabbi, or what a rabbi is a teacher, right? So this is kind of like college placement.
Pretty
a little
cool.
bit, right? If you're good, then you get chosen for D1 or an Ivy League school. I'm sure that there were like some stooge rabbis that were like the JUCO version. That's like, of course this guy chose me, right? Poor guy. Yeah, probably has like a weird tan line. That that type of rabbi. And anyway, so the rabbi at that time with the most buzz around him that everybody was looking to was Jesus. Jesus was a rabbi. He was a teacher and was the top. The way that he taught, the way that he spoke was different than anybody else. He spoke with authority.
Yeah.
He was actually making these radical claims at that time that he was the Son of God. And so he was the top one. So everybody was so curious to see who is Jesus going to choose as his representatives, as his disciples, right?
I wonder if some of the boys declined, where they're like, I'm holding out.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm holding out for Jesus.
Thanks for everything, Reuben. But there's a chance that Jesus is going to choose me. Right, exactly. So all eyes are on who Jesus is going to choose. And this is where it gets crazy.
Ooh, so this is where it picks up in Matthew 4. And I actually should have worn my Jesus was a misfit t-shirt.
Yeah.
Because, again, he was radical. He was countercultural. He was a misfit. And so he chooses his first disciples right here in Matthew 4:18. And it says, as Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. And I don't know if you heard, but he's a fisherman too. But
yeah, if
first,
you haven't seen my picture on social media, figure it out. Biggest red snapper probably in the world, but sorry,
probably.
Keep going.
Verse 19, come follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. At once they left their nets and followed him. 21. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat with their father Zebedee, preparing their nets. Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. And so these choices, everyone's sitting on the edge of their seats, waiting to see who Jesus is about to choose. But
wah, wah. Yeah.
Just a little context at that time, especially, we're a church in Destin, so this is not what we're saying. We're just saying at that time, fishermen were probably considered a little bit lower class, or maybe lower education,
yeah,
right?
if you didn't strike it rich on that test, then you went back and you followed the family business, which was usually why people became fishermen.
Exactly. So you see James and John, they're with their father, so they're in the family business, doing what they're supposed to do, but it's not necessarily who people expected, right? Jesus probably had the cream of the crop to be able to pick and choose from when it came to choosing his disciples, but he started off with a few fishermen.
Yeah, which is underwhelming, disappointing at best, and everybody's super stoked about it. It's like, when you have a gender reveal and you're really excited, and then you find out it's a girl. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh man, it could have been so great, and then I think you know what I'm talking about.
I actually have a story like that, but another day.
Not you, Sophia. Okay. All right, so that was the underwhelming, wah wah part, but this next part is what is the showstopper. This is the shocking part, right? Matthew 9:9. As Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax collector's booth. So here's what you need to know about tax collectors. So in that time, the Roman government was this oppressive force against the Jewish people, and they were taxing the tar out of the Jewish people. So the tax collectors were actually Jews who were partnering with this oppressive Roman government to tax their own people. So they were worse than the enemy. They were like the Benedict Arnold turning against their own people, right? Joining exactly. And so when you think Matthew, don't think of the victim. Think of the oppressor.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Think of the person that everybody hated. It wasn't some people sympathized with Matthew. Everybody was against him. So in your mind, whoever that person is, they disagree with everything that you say, and they do it loudly and rudely, and you're like, they're evil. They're just evil. it's that person, right? And so it's the person that you're like, man, if Jesus was here on earth, Jesus would probably hate this guy, right? That's Matthew. Now we all feel bad for Matthew. So they're all rolling up on Matthew, and the other two disciples, they see him. Hair stands up on the back of their neck, right? They're like, I'm going to friggin' drop kick this guy.
You know Peter was that.
Right, yeah. Peter fights no matter what. So they're like, all right, Jesus, are you going to punch this guy in the face? Should I punch this guy in the face? And here's where it's shocking, is that Jesus goes up to Matthew, the oppressor, the tax collector, and he says, follow me, he told him. And Matthew got up and followed him. And there's no way to overstate how radical that was.
Yeah.
Not only did Jesus not punch Matthew in the face, he asked him to join his inner circle. And it was the exact same invitation he gave the other two disciples, right? It wasn't a qualifier of, as long as you admit that you're wrong, or prove to me that you're serious for 3 months. The exact same words as he gave these guys, he gave this oppressor of Matthew, which is radical.
So you might be asking yourself that question, even like for yourself, like, okay, what does radical love look like? Really? What does that disruptive love look like? And honestly, like, Jesus was just the perfect example. Like, he led the way with that. What made his love so radical is that it was unconditional.
Yep.
It was unconditional.
He reached across those lines and labels.
Yeah, it was beyond logic. It was beyond what these boys, these young men deserved. It was beyond. It was beyond that, and I just love that picture of loving people, because sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's just hard to love people.
Yeah.
You know, but
we want to disqualify people from love and say, well, here's why I can't. And he goes, I'm here to tear down those walls.
Completely. So it had nothing to do with their preparation. It had nothing to do with their qualifications or their family or their background or anything like that. They had that same invitation that that we actually talked about. We talked about this the last couple of weeks of this new commandment. These same disciples, Jesus told them in John 13, right before Jesus went to the cross, he told them, hey guys, I have a new commandment for you. Not this new suggestion, not a request, not a nice to have. Like, no, this is something that I want you to be a part of. He said, love each other.
Yeah, so John 13:34 says, so now I am giving you a new commandment. Love each other. Just as I have loved you, you should love each other. And what I love about this, what's radical about this, is that Jesus says, God says, I am simplifying your job.
Yeah.
Right? Here's the job that I'm giving you. Your job is simply to love. Don't overdo that. Don't overthink that. Simple but very difficult. And your job is not to decide who's right or wrong, right? Your job is not to determine how people should respond to the way that you love. Your job is not to determine who deserves grace or love. All that is up to me. All I'm asking you to do is love. And when we say love there, here's what we're talking about. We're talking like the type of love where you look the person in the eye who disagrees with everything that you say. The person that you feel is evil, you look to that person and you love them. You respond with love. Or you look the person in the face who honestly wants to harm you, right? Who is against you, and you love that person. And I thought the example of love that we have, the person who embodied this is Jesus. And Jesus' example went so far that he was looking a group of people in the eye whom he had tirelessly loved his entire life, and they were chanting for him to be put to death. And how did he respond to those chants? He continued to love. That is radical, right? So Galatians 3:28 says, there is neither Jew nor Gentile, Gentiles meaning not Jew, neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. And these are lines that were drawn that were,
Yeah.
big time back then. Some of these are still kind
Right.
of hot topic lines. But I was thinking, let's fill in some lines of nowadays, right, to kind of be re-upped on this. And I thought, there's neither Republican or Democrat, right? There's neither vax or anti-vax, or face mask or no face mask, or even there's no pro-life, pro-choice,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like what are labels that we draw to excuse ourselves from hating somebody else or being against somebody else? And so, we say all the time, well, I get it, love, but not them, because they're obviously evil, they're obviously wrong. And I believe that the reason why the church has withstood 2020 years is because the type of love that Jesus embodied and calls us to is a radical, sacrificial love that puts a faith and love filter ahead of party or ideal filter.
Yes.
And that is one that withstands time.
Yes, yes.
So here's our question today, and we would encourage you there. Crab Island, ask the people in your boat this, or AJ's, ask the people at your table this, or have a combo in the car, something, because we don't want to just watch a message and go home unchanged.
Definitely.
Who cares about that, right? We want to get better. So no shame, no condemnation. This is our opportunity to highlight ways that we can grow in this love. So it's very simple, but it's how are you valuing people? How are you devaluing people? And there's going to be things that you do that are both. So it's not all in one camp, all in the other, but let's throw it out on the table. How are your thoughts valuing? How are your thoughts devaluing? How are your words valuing? And how are some of your words devaluing? So I thought Facebook posts or social
definitely,
media posts,
yeah.
right? Or comments. Are there ways that we are devaluing people? And finally, are our actions valuing or our actions devaluing? Recognizing this is not the be-all, end-all, but this is a first step in self-evaluation of how we can adhere to that radical love we're being called to.
Definitely. And at Shoreline, we want to be a part of that radical shift in our culture. And we want to partner with you.
Yeah.
This weekend, you might have heard already, we had Serve Day, and we had an amazing opportunity to go out and love beyond our home by going to 4 local locations, plus our online community, partner with us in prayer. And we want to continue that idea of love your neighbor, radical love, valuing others.
Yep.
We want to continue that with the Love Your Neighbor Challenge.
Yes.
Yes. Today, if you're watching live right now, our team is set and prepped, ready to give you guys some cash money. Yes, get some.
Yeah.
You're going to get some cash money today, and we want you to go out this week and take part in that Love Your Neighbor Challenge by look for opportunities to love someone, to love someone radically, to value someone. We don't know, the possibilities are incredibly endless with what you can do with this opportunity, but it is only one step. It's the first step, what we hope would be like a lifestyle for you.
Exactly. We're not naive enough to think that $20 is going to change the world.
Yeah.
But the point is not the value or how much money you get. The point is simply once you have $20, now you're starting to look for needs around you.
Completely.
And that's we don't think it's naive to say that if we have a group of people inside the Tri-City who begin to shift the culture into a culture of love and looking to serve, that could change the world. I believe that.
I believe it too. And we just cannot wait to hear your stories. We want you guys to hashtag Love Your Neighbor Challenge. We want you to tag us, let us know, take photos, tell us your stories, because we truly believe that this little church in Destin can be a part of being the church that Jesus desired from the very beginning. And so, I don't know. I love this opportunity.
I do too.
What an amazing series that we've been a part of.
Yeah. Can I pray?
Yeah.
All right. Father, thank you for today. And to be totally honest, I feel like this has challenged me, that even just talking about this in the past half hour, I've recognized some of the labels that I've allowed to get ahead of your call to love.
Yeah.
And so, starting with me, I just want to change that motive and mentality and to take a step into meeting the needs around me and loving first, because that is what your church is all about. That is what you are all about. You came down to tear down walls.
Yeah.
And we get to be your extension of love and grace here on earth. And so what a beautiful challenge you gave to us and what we get to do. So we love you. We are learning to trust you more every
Yeah.
day. In your precious name, amen.
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 Yeah.
Well, hope you guys have a great week. We'll see you here next week.
Bye, guys.